Australia.
Conversational products are increasingly realistic, participating in back and forth dialogue. And these products are really reshaping how children interact with digital characters. As a field, there's a lot that we don't know about how to make sense of emerging behaviours between children and AI. And it's important that we do develop an understanding because as young people are quickly adopting this technology, they're using it for many hours per day for a range of different needs and interests. And the stakes are high for early adoption of a technology that we know so little about. Recent incidents, such as the widely reported lawsuit against character AI, blaming a 14-year-old suicide on becoming emotionally attached to an AI character, really highlights the urgent need to understand the relationships that children are engaging with and forming with AI characters. So, one of the ways to describe those emerging relationships that has been adopted in the field is the term parasocial. And our paper really set out to evaluate whether the measures and the constructs behind the parasocial constructs are fit to evaluate the capabilities of new characters. So we started by noting that parasocial measures have been around for a long time. They were first defined in the 1950s, and research has since differentiated parasocial relationships, which stands for the longer-term bonds that people form, from parasocial interactions. So they're the real-time experiences you have while engaging with the media. And we can use the term parasocial experiences to sort of talk about both. But really, this term and these measures were still characterized by a one-sided nature, that audiences can form emotional bonds with media figures, but media figures cannot return in responding kind, which makes sense for the media at the time, which was, radio and TV. But now, AI can talk back, and our measurement tools still very much treat it like TV. And this mismatch is really critical because millions of teens spend hours daily interacting with AI, and we're using these measurement tools, construction language that were not designed for this context. So it's really important that we understand what measures we can reliably adopt and continue on using, and then where we need to evolve our understanding and our measures. So we started with a systematic review of 24 studies, which either validated or proposed new measures for children, so those under the age of 18, around parasocial experiences. And we mapped where the items in these scales originated from, where they'd been created, what audiences they were evaluated with, and the reliability and the validity of each scale. And you can see a version of this map in the paper in the supplementary materials. But today I'm just really going to focus on just a few, so 5 of the major limitations that were identified in this review. And this really serves as caution to researchers who are looking to really quickly apply existing measures and concepts, but we'll also identify where measures that were maybe lost in the journey that are really critical to bring back, and areas where we need to evolve our understanding for those that are working in this field. So a significant milestone in this field was achieved by Bond and Calvert's attempts to make a custom scale for children, but studies in general are still applying adult-derived scales to children or using parent reports instead of asking children directly. And typically, as well, a lot of the questions were used across huge age bands, maybe the same question for those aged 5 to 16 years, and that really ignores the developmental differences in these age groups. Secondly, parasocial experiences are measured as binary or categorical or ordinal with very little consistency. And this makes it really hard to compare studies or draw conclusions and could really slow down how quickly the field could evaluate AI experiences and build cumulative knowledge. Thirdly, there was very little consensus on how to evaluate how real a character feels. Many studies are still using a binary measure of real or not real, even though young people are increasingly thinking of AI as maybe a third category, or thinking of it as pretend and imaginative play. Characters that young people chose as their favourite really varied in their connection to reality, so some may have been purely fictional, like Barney the dinosaur. Others might have represented something kind of plausible, like an explorer, and some were, representing real-world celebrities. And researchers would categorize the realism of characters in various ways, but often those social realism scales had low internal consistency. So without addressing this challenge, we really risk measuring the wrong construct And there are additional safety and fairness implications because if we misinterpret the impact of children's understanding of AI's reality status, we may either overprotect them from beneficial experiences or underestimate the potential risks and design really ineffective interventions. So we also noted that current parasocial measures predominantly focus on friendship-positive relationships by asking participants to nominate a single favourite character, but it really failed to capture the complexity of the relationships that children form with villains, antagonistic, or morally complex characters. It's important that we do recognise that because the breadth of characters, say, available and that kids engage with on platforms like Character AI represent a whole different host of character sort of archetypes. In fact, it may not even be a character at all, as can be seen by a role-playing game, a murder mystery, or sort of these meme characters like Cheese. And lastly, only a few studies measured affective items, which focus on what could be described as the maybe emotional effect or emotional contagion of a character. So the presence of emotions spreading from one person to another. And these emotions could be positive. Say, when good things happen to this person, I was very excited. But it also could be negative. So if something bad happens to the character, I also feel bad. And these items are particularly promising when looking towards conversational AI characters because they really address the key concern that, maybe guardians and parents talk about, which is, does the child feel positively or negatively influenced by interactions with this character? So what? So, our analysis revealed fundamental limitations in these scales, including measurement inconsistencies and methodological constraints, even when they're applied to the traditional media they were designed to measure. And the one-size-fits-all approach to age ranges, narrow focus on friendship, and inconsistent evaluation of social realism, just to mention a few, they really limit the application of these scales to AI research if we do so uncritically. And if we don't address these limitations, that means we risk pathologizing potentially developmentally normal or creative and imaginative behavior. We also may fail to understand how kids truly engage, which disempowers them and misguides regulation or design. So, where do we go from here? Our paper proposes a few directions for improving the methodological and the measures that we're using in this field. Firstly, current parasocial scales primarily capture perceptions rather than behaviours. So we propose evaluating AI relationships as we do many real-world relationship qualities through looking at behaviours such as nurturing behaviours, trust, and play. Secondly, friendships are not just about how people act, but also about how they feel. So we propose reviving older affective scales that dropped off that tree diagram we showed earlier, because these affective dimensions may be especially relevant for AI characters that can personalize interactions, available on demand, and may be more influential than traditional media characters. And lastly, the field would really benefit from evaluating the diverse roles that AI characters play in children's lives that extend far beyond just a simple, positive BFF friendship paradigm. So a summary of all these issues and recommendations can be found in the paper for those who are interested. And to wrap up, we really believe that existing parasocial scales can offer valuable starting points, but they weren't built for AI. And if we want to support children's well-being in this space, we need new frameworks, new measures that reflect the reality of two-way evolving relationships. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to reach out.